Now, I know a lot of you will relate when I say I've never been a big breakfast guy. I was doing intermittent fasting before I even knew what it was. Don't get me wrong, I love breakfast food. I just don't like eating early in the morning. But there is one breakfast food I could never get behind, and that was oatmeal. Hot, sludgy, mushy, no texture, often sweet. One look at oatmeal as a kid, and it was a big no thanks from me. It's like everything bad about cereal, all thrown into one dish, except hot, and everything about it is 10 times worse. But as I began to cook, I would look at things that I historically didn't like and tried to figure out why. Then you can reverse engineer the things you don't like about it and build it back together the way that you do. And hopefully, eventually, grow to love a thing that I used to hate. And that's exactly what we're gonna do today. We're gonna turn that gross, gloopy, soggy oatmeal into a creamy, crunchy, savory oatmeal, inspired by one of the greatest breakfasts there is, bacon, egg, and cheese, along with my favorite Italian dish, risotto. So let's just jump right into it. And the first step is really gonna be picking the right oatmeal. You see, much of the lack of texture comes from the oats that are most commonly used to make oatmeal. These rolled oats here, probably the most common that you're gonna see. Rolled oats are basically just steamed oats that are then rolled out flat into these small little pieces. Very little texture. They get hot, they get soggy, they get soft, and that's all you're gonna eat. Steel cut, however, are less processed oats. They basically have the texture of broken rice. Definitely more resembles a rice, and you can see it's just an oat that's been kind of chopped up, broken if you will. Now they're basically both identical. Rolled oats will take about 5 minutes to cook. These might take about 30 minutes to cook, closer to what a risotto might take, but still fairly quick. And the real reason I like using them is simply texture. Gives it more of a risotto texture rather than a soft, soggy oatmeal texture. And if you know me, I'm a texture freak. Any opportunity to add much needed texture to a dish, I take it. Now this package has a ratio of 1 cup oats to 3 cups water. But for me, that ratio is not gonna work. Usually I'll make oats, I'll use a 4-to-1 ratio, but today I'm gonna be adding some cheese. So I wanna compensate to that, so I'm gonna go 1 part oats to 5 parts liquid, which is usually a combination of milk and water. Today I'm gonna use both. So I'm gonna go 1 cup of the steel cut oats, then I'm gonna go with 3 cups of water, and then I'm gonna cut it with 2 cups of some good whole milk. And this should be enough for 4 people. I'm gonna make the oatmeal for 4. I'm gonna cook the rest of the stuff for 1. This can easily be scaled down or scaled up. I'm just gonna stick to that 1-to-5 ratio. We're gonna set those off to the side and we can prepare the rest of the ingredients. Next up, I've got some thick cut, center cut bacon, some Parmigiano Reggiano, 1 pasture raised egg, a little arugula, some dried oregano, and some chili flake. All we gotta do is dice up the bacon. I'm gonna go for like some nice little chunks, and then we're ready to bring it all together. So I just got about 3 slices of thick cut bacon here, and I'm just gonna cut that stack into 2 halves and then cut those down the middle lengthwise, turn them, and then slice those into equal pieces of bacon. We just want some little nice bite-sized pieces. Get some nice little chunks like that. Now for this recipe, I'm choosing to use non-stick. Cooking oatmeal, it can get all sticky and gloopy in one of these pots, so a non-stick pot works really well for the oatmeal, and we're cooking eggs, so we need a non-stick frying pan. And they're from our sponsor today, Made In. Made In designs professional quality equipment for the home cook, and they partner with multi-generational factories and artisans to offer you a real comprehensive collection of pots, pans, serveware, and everything else you might need to cook and serve food in a home kitchen. And it is that reason why they are my favorite brand, because whatever I need to stock up on, Made In has it, and they have the right style and quality I'm looking for. Made In's Performance Non-Stick Collection is made in both America and Italy. Their non-stick surface is double cured, made without PFOAs, non-toxic. It lasts 10 times longer than the premium competitors' non-stick surfaces and 70 times longer than ceramic non-stick surfaces. It's passed 100% of a third party's health, safety, and non-toxic tests in both the US and Europe, which both have really high standards for safety. And unlike other non-stick cookware, Made In's non-stick can go from stove to oven up to 500 degrees. So if you need to stock up on Made In's non-stick collection or anything else they have to offer, check out the link in my description, and let's just get back into the recipe. So I've got a medium-sized non-stick pot. Non-stick is nice, but it's not necessary, of course. Add a touch of oil and then add the dry oatmeal. And just like risotto, we're going to toast the oatmeal just to bring out a little bit more flavor. Toss in the oil, and after a few minutes, it should begin to smell nutty. That's the point in which we're gonna add our water and milk mixture. I'm gonna set a timer for 30 minutes, but I will end up cooking this a bit longer. That's just a kind of a guide. And this is like risotto, but we're not gonna cook it gradually the way we cook risotto. risotto. We can add all the liquid at once, bring it up to a boil, reduce it down to a simmer, and just stir it throughout. But now we're gonna move that pot over to the side, allow that to simmer while we render out our bacon. In a nonstick pan, add the chopped bacon to the cold pan, and then turn the heat on to medium high and allow the fat to slowly render out, breaking up those clusters of bacon so all the pieces are nice and loose and they can all brown beautifully and evenly. Usually when you start to see this foaming action starting, this means you're close to the bacon being perfectly cooked. So at this point, I like to pool all of the fat and bacon to one side of the pan and almost allow the bacon to fry in its own fat. And you just want to keep paying attention at this point, and when the bacon fat and the bacon meat turn a nice sort of caramel color, we just want to grab a strainer over a bowl that I kind of use to store bacon fat and just pour that whole mixture into the strainer to separate the fat from the bacon, and you have these beautiful bacon bits that are going to add nice texture. Now back to the oatmeal. The bacon took about 20 minutes, so that means I have another 10 or 15 minutes left of cooking the oatmeal. And the closer we get to it being cooked, the thicker it will get. So I just focus on stirring it a bit more often. And just like risotto, we want to achieve a thick, creamy mix that has the oatmeal sort of suspended in the liquid to keep it nice and creamy. Now after about 30 minutes, it's not fully al dente yet, so just cook for another 5 minutes or so for a total of about 35 minutes. Taste and adjust the seasoning, and now it's nice and al dente and thickened, but it still has a little bit of flow in it, which we want. So I'm gonna set that pot off to the side, off the heat, and then get that non-stick pan back on the heat that we used to cook the bacon, add a little bit of oil, crack an egg, and allow that pan to preheat. While that preheats, we can take a handful of grated Parmigiano Reggiano and stir that into the oatmeal, finishing it just like risotto. And you want it to keep it flowy earlier because when we add this cheese, we know it's going to tighten up, and we want it to maintain its creaminess at the end, not become gloop like normal oatmeal usually is. Once the cheese is nicely mixed in, it's done. And now that nonstick pan is hot, we're just gonna add that egg and let it fry on about medium-high heat. I'll season it with some flaky salt and some black pepper, and once that translucent egg white or albumin around that egg yolk on the top of the egg firms up and stops jiggling, the egg is basically done. We can get it out of the pan and we can get ready to plate. On the bottom of the plate, just like risotto, we're gonna add a couple spoonfuls of the oatmeal. And then on top of that, we're gonna place the fried egg. Now around the oatmeal and the egg, I'm just gonna sprinkle some of those bacon bits. Then I'm gonna add some dried oregano right on top, along with some red chili flake. Then I'm gonna take some fresh arugula and just sort of drape it around the plate. A few more bacon bits right on top, some really good extra virgin olive oil, and then you crack that egg right open, and that egg yolk adds more sauce to the dish. In my humble opinion, this is what oatmeal should be. There's one thing I'm noticing when eating this is that I'm tasting and experiencing texture. And that's how you turn something you thought you didn't like into something you might love. Full recipe is going to be down in the description. That's all I got today. I'll see you next time. Until then, take care of yourself and go feed yourself.